Okay, welcome to the fourth episode of the Growing Pains podcast. I'm joined here by my friend Benjamin Riddle. And Ben is a real man, and not only because he has a beard, a dog, a girlfriend, a house, likes to drink beer and lift heavy weights. Ben has served in the Marine Corps for 5 years and now spends his days working as a geospatial scientist. By night, he is a craftsman with both the pen and the barbell. His creative pursuits and philosophies on life can be found on his blog, 1 Foot, 1 Step, and he is the head coach and director of Charlotte Uptown Weightlifting in North Carolina. He's also the organizer and founder of Battle for the Fallen, which is a weightlifting meet in memory of his friend Trevor Johnson. Thanks for coming on the show, Ben. I appreciate it.
That made me feel pretty special, Mark. I appreciate that too.
That's my aim. That. Yeah. There's actually there's a radio show back in Toronto called Q, and unfortunately the radio host, John Gameshi, he was doing some pretty sketchy stuff, like he was hitting women and stuff like that. So he is no longer on the show, and has been exiled, I think, to Iran or something. But
you liked his intro.
His intros are so good that he does. So now I try and do the same thing. I don't hit women though.
Well, pick your role models well. I appreciate that.
Yes, exactly. So we were just chatting a little bit about the community that you're kind of creating down in Charlotte rather. And I think there's been 2 people, Holly and Cole, from our original flight weightlifting group who've moved down there to participate in the weightlifting club you have down there. So how did that kind of start, and why are people flocking to you, Ben?
Flocking's a kind word. So it's hard, like, as weightlifters, and we were talking about this before the show started, there's some kind of schism or divide between weightlifting and CrossFit. And I think, both sides are responsible for that. And my personal philosophy is that the two can interact and they can benefit each other. And we're doing that successfully in my club at Charlotte Uptown Weightlifting, which is inside of Reebok CrossFit in Charlotte. So I'm currently living that life right now. But there are a number of gyms I have been circulating around the area because, for faults on both sides, like I said, it's just difficult to lift out of CrossFit gyms, but also it's like, there's not a whole lot of weightlifting gyms in the world. It is a fringe sport, especially in the U.S. So, but like CrossFit gyms have the equipment and they have the space, so weightlifters kind of tend to move towards them. And so when I walked into Reebok in this like defeated state, and I told him, I walked in and it was Andy Hendel, and I was like, listen, I won't talk to anyone, and I'm just going to stand in this corner and I'm going to mind my business and I'm just going to lift, and I'll probably never jump in on a wad, and I just want to lift weights. And, he was like, yeah, we'll take you. And I was like, sweet. And so for a long time, that is what I did, was just lift in the corner and mind my business. But people like weightlifting and they like watching good weightlifting. And, so they started coming over to the corner, and, you create relationships, start talking to people. And then I was bringing, like you guys in, and Barbell Shrugged, and, we threw a meet that was awesome and fun. The first flight weightlifting meet. And, so he approached me and Andy, and he was like, would you like to start a barbell club? But I want to charge people for it. And I was like, okay, we got to give him something worth charging. And, so I sanctioned it, and at the time I never sanctioned a club before, but, I'm not an idiot. So I was like, I can do this. And, so I kind of just started winging it and jumped on USAW and kind of figured out the administrative side, which was a cool learning experience because, I'd always just been on the athlete side, not necessarily the coach or the administrative side. So it was interesting, to start operating that. And then, I created a club and designed a program that they get, they have programming 7 days a week. And, but so much more about a club is bigger than that. So much more about coaching is bigger than just writing a program and giving a space. And, it's been growing. and we're continuously growing. The numbers are going up, and our fellow weightlifting brothers and sisters have moved out here for one reason or another, joined our forces. So it really is like, if you build it, they will come. It's true, at least for us.
Yeah, I think that is true, but there's something about you in particular, and I think it's just that you make people feel really welcome, and you just kind of have like a welcoming persona to you. Is that something that you've set out to do intentionally, or are you just naturally good at building relationships with people?
It's a double-edged sword. And I appreciate that, Mark. Like I said, coaching is about so much more than just program design and, and giving a space. Like people, and this is where CrossFit has been super successful, and it's the community.
Right.
And, weightlifting, I knew, and that the weightlifting community mostly, you always have a few assholes in there, right? But mostly, are really good people, and I wanted to show people that. And my ability to work with people, because me, like, I'm really straightforward and I can be very blunt, and I do have an edge to me. So like if I have a problem with you, I'm not exactly hiding it.
Right.
So it's not like I'm just welcoming indiscriminately.
Yeah.
But I do love the sport, and I love the people in it. And as you've read on the blog, there's a lot of development, not only through the community, but through yourself, that happens from, really just about anything that you apply your efforts to try and master. There's going to be a level of self-development. And I just fell in love with all those aspects, and these people that you meet are incredible. And it's like, I need to make this approachable. Like, people need to see what's going on here, because like I said, weightlifting is a fringe sport around here. So how do I make that? And it's a really intimidating sport to approach if you're not familiar with it. It looks aggressive, and people are trying really hard, and there's always someone dropping F-bombs at some point, because it's like infuriating. And I was like, people need to see it. This is fun, and that it's approachable, and and my idea is that weightlifting does grow from the grassroots. That's where the power lies. That's where the power communities lie. So, it comes from a point of being genuine. It does. And, I love working with people, and I love working in the community. And, it's I'm not trying to sell a product I don't believe in. So it's easy for me to work with people and show them, kind of the beauty that the sport presents.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's kind of just the fact that you tell the truth is what you're saying. Like, if you feel strongly about one thing and that might lead to a confrontation with someone, you're willing to tell the truth to that person. And if you also want to welcome someone, you're going to be truthful about that too. So no one's ever left guessing in your presence, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's important. And when you're a coach, that's your opportunity, and you will, whether you want to be or not, be looked to as a mentor. And the Marine Corps taught me that attitude reflects leadership, and that you lead from the front. And so if I want people to exhibit the virtues that I've come to believe, and nothing new has happened under the sun, and in our time. And if you want people, all you really have at the end of the day, no one's ever really safe. You're not safe in your job. You're not always safe with the people you're around. Things can change at any moment. And you saw that when you were trying to come into Canada. You were just going about your day, and all of a sudden America says, no, you can't come back in here. We're sorry. You're never really safe. And so all you really have is your ability to communicate with people. And I can lie to you, and you can lie to me, but if you lie to yourself, who are you fooling? So I think it's important as a coach and a mentor, people need to know that you mean what you say, and what you say is what you mean. And if you don't really have that, there's nothing that's going to be able to support you as a coach in this world ever. That's what you have. And it's just important to not violate that, especially with an athlete-coach relationship. They need to know that, yes, like you're authoritative, especially in the earlier stages. When athletes are more intermediate to advanced, it does become more democratic because you just communicate on a two-way street more.
Yeah.
But especially early on, like they need to know that you're watching them, that you're, not only do you care for them, but, you know, you're hard on them because you do care, you know, and you don't want to be too much of a cheerleader. So it's about creating a balance where people trust that the words coming out of your mouth are at least what you think is true.
And that you're trying to help them.
Yeah.
Do you find
so
that?
That's,
oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, do you find that it's difficult to have that type of persona when you are coaching people? Like, do you find that people take that type of coaching very well, or do you find people are abrasive when you are authoritative or telling them what to do or coming down hard on them?
For the most part, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, there are different personalities that conflict, but, you know, the advantage and probably like I developed a pretty good sense of leadership in the Marine Corps because even if people were assholes or you didn't get along with them, you still had to work with them and you still had to lead them. And the Marine Corps, at least the mentors I came up under, was basically like, you don't get to give up on people as a leader. If there's a problem, you figure out a way to make it work. And so that kind of gives you a level of leadership you don't necessarily see in the civilian world, because the civilian world can just fire you and hire someone else, right? They don't have to deal with you. So when I work with people that I may not be getting along with all the time, I'm not just discarding them because I think that's bad leadership. I take it upon myself as the leader. Like, there's a way to communicate with this person. So long as they're not sacrificing the culture of the club and the community I want to make, and they're not a liability, I'm going to try and find some way to relate to them. And that's also a reason why I've got Holly, you know, who's one of our friends, Holly Hansler, and she's a great coach and a phenomenal weightlifter. And she offers another dynamic. And again, that's me working on that problem solving area where it's like, not everyone is going to be able to vibe with me, and that's fine. So Holly, you know, she's a female, so she can approach perhaps female athletes in a different way. She has a different coaching style, so that can work for athletes that may not, you know, work well with me. And that doesn't mean that I'm being an asshole. It just means like maybe my cues aren't working with them, or maybe they're not understanding what I'm trying to explain. And so Holly will come over and say the same thing, but in her way, and it clicks, right? So it's good to have her around and have her be able to work with the athletes too, because that allows more approachability overall to the athletes in the club and takes care of them.
I just want to change gears a little bit because you have talked about being in the Marine Corps a couple times already. Is that like that warrior style mentality that you have? Is that something that came from the Marine Corps, or was that something that was instilled in you from a younger age than that?
I think the development of a warrior is multifaceted, and the biggest mistake that people could make with warriors, true warriors, people that kind of develop that ethos, is that they're just kind of these one-sided violent creatures that don't think and just act, and that could be further from the truth. Like when you look at the philosophical standards of the greatest warrior cultures around the world, you know, samurais and Spartans, there's this very deep kind of spirituality and ethos and code to it. But you can't, like, people aren't just born with that. That's something that's taught, and it's something that's earned, and it's something that's learned. You know, and, you know, for me, you know, there was a time in the Marine Corps that was extremely trying, you know, because I did 3 tours in 4.5 years. And I had to develop some kind of moral code that allowed me to survive on a much more spiritual level. You know, for me, and you see that a lot in my writing, a lot of that was kind of that Bushido mentality that really worked for me. So it's not, so just because you have been a warrior doesn't make you like this super hard-lined, aggressive person. Like if fighting is about balance and learning when to apply your effort and when to hold back and when to defend and when to attack, that kind of mentality, there are entire books written on it. The Art of War, the Five Rings, it's a metaphor that can go in through the rest of your life, mastering that part of yourself, because that's ultimately what being a warrior and fighting is learning to master yourself. Your opponent happens to just be in front of you in some fashion. So it's, when I was younger, I've always been defiant by nature, and you've seen that. Like I'm defiant against authority, and I get it, and I can work with people like that. I've always worked well with like inner city kids and stuff, because I get it. That's just one facet of being a warrior, the ability to defy odds or just not be pushed around. That's just one facet. And so as I went into, the Marine Corps, other things were developed, just like mental toughness and grit and teamwork, and some of the things we touched on earlier about not being able to give up on people around you, and then dealing with the darker sides of being a warrior, the violence and the destruction that occurs around you, and wondering if what you do is worth it, because you can almost go into this place that's extremely nihilistic, and you have to find something. That's where you ultimately see warriors come out stronger or they break. Is there's always that turning point when you've seen enough. That's my dog, Maple. He's famous on the internet. Where there's this breaking point where you've seen enough death and enough destruction and it's just endless nights, and it kind of bleeds together to where you're either going to have to find a way within yourself to make that right, or you're just going to fall into a very dark place. And that's where I think that these cultures, samurai and other ancient warrior cultures, developed this kind of code and ethos, is to ultimately not just discipline your warriors, but kind of save them from themselves. And if you can do that, if you can find that, if you can make sense of that, and if you can learn it and delve into it, it makes you a more well-rounded person and complete person in general. And, as I get older, I'm approaching 34 now, or 35, and as I get older, you never start learning, now taking on, as opposed to being a warrior, now more of the mentor, moving into more of a coach role. And that's fine, because I still learn about myself from that, and looking at people that are early 20s, doing this sport that's very difficult, and I can see it. I can see myself in them. I can see them developing those emotions and the mentality, and so having kind of, at a very different extreme, but nonetheless being a competitive athlete is still going to pull on some of those same chords. Having an experience of really having lived that life and gone through those steps and traversed that path gives me a lot of tools to really work with people at a competitive level.
Was it writing that helped you kind of move through those chaotic experiences, or was it just reading about these other warrior cultures, or like some mentors you had? What was it that what was it that allowed you to be able to move through those experiences and come out stronger on the other side?
I would say, the writing, the blog only really started probably, 2-3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So what you read in the blog is really a reflection of what we're talking about, the different assets that I learned and draw back on while weightlifting, right? That's what it really is my path through weightlifting and how I've applied this kind of warrior philosophy to it, and the experiences that drove me there. So that is more like a conclusion. The whole blog is like a large conclusion for like 15 years of my life, right? So it was largely the reading, and what really started to click was I'm reading these things, and then all of a sudden I'm not just reading from a bystander standpoint. I'm not just like, oh, well, the Spartans sound cool or the samurais sound cool, and that's a really interesting point. I was reading myself. I was reading what they were saying took on a whole new meaning because I had felt the very emotions or needed to hear what they had to say applied directly to my life. And so the more I realized that I was living this thing that they were talking about, the more I just kept studying and learned about myself and learned that there's a reason this type of stuff has existed since the beginning of, the human condition.
Yeah, I think that's something that is, I won't say it's damaging, but it's something that we miss out on a lot of the time is when we read these books, we don't realize that they are writing about us and what we're going through at this time. And like you said, even if you're not in the Marines or even if you're not in some type of combat setting, if you're competing in a athletic endeavor, you can apply those lessons from these books that have been around since the beginning of time to our lives. And that, I think, gives structure and gives purpose to a lot of the things that we do. And I think that's why it's so compelling to compete. For me, whenever I'm coaching someone in weightlifting, I always try and get them to compete because I feel like that's the most real and visceral experience you can get in society today. If you're like, I don't know where else you get that.
Absolutely. We miss that a lot. And I was watching this, I'm trying to remember what show it was. I think maybe it was like the movie The Revenant or, with Leonardo DiCaprio or something. And my dad was like, what do you think our fascination is with these kind of hardline men and cultures and people? And I was like, I think we lost it. There's not many avenues for it. Like the military obviously offers this kind of rite of passage for people. And, sports offers that too, like this kind of crucible to development. And, I speak largely from a male standpoint because I'm a man, so that's where I'm going to speak from. But, I have not a text signature, my email signature, and a friend of mine, Scott Barr, who knows Latin, helped me develop it because I was thinking on this concept about like the right of strength. So at the bottom of my email in Latin, you see strength is right, and that's what I'm tapping on is like since the human condition was developed, it's always kind of been feats of strength that were this kind of testament to clout and your ability and a rite of passage. Warrior cultures, it's like who could throw a stone the furthest. And within those concepts, like you earn this rite of passage, right? It not only a rite of passage with your peers, but with yourself as well. Like you walk this crucible and you developed as a person and you have more confidence and you walk through life. And so like strength is right. And we've lost touch of that a lot, in a society where we're kind of increasingly making our lives easier, which is fine. People should be happy and comfortable, and it's only because I'm well fed that I get to sit here online with you and talk about this shit, right? But, we don't have a lot of that anymore. So where do people get their kind of crucible from? Where do they get their test? Where do they learn about themselves? It's not going to be on Instagram looking at fake lives. It's not going to be in your corporate job, in your cubicle where you're told to just shut up and sit down. Strength is resistance, and by its very nature, both physiologically and psychologically. And, that is what competition is. It's you getting up there and you're terrified, at least at first, you develop some kind of flow state at some point as you become more experienced, but, pushing people in an area where they're very uncomfortable, it gives people that. And I'm seeing that now. Like I have athletes, and I can call them athletes because they compete. And I have athletes that are in their mid to late 40s, even early 50s. And I finally got them to commit to just getting on the platform. And it's important about leading them. It's important about saying like, I don't want you competing with them. This is about me and you. You focus on me, I'll focus on you, and we're going to do this together. And they get off the platform, and like you can see it in their eyes, like they're wide open, their pupils are dilated, and like they're terrified, but they're like, that was amazing. I want to do it again, you know, like, and that's when it happens. That's that crucible. That's that rite of passage that makes them feel alive. It makes them feel that this was worth it. It makes them feel like they earned something that was extremely difficult and that they have value and worth to society. And I think that's where you got to push people towards, even if they're not trying to go to nationals, it's about something so much bigger than that to me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that is really difficult for a lot of people to get a grasp on, is that just because you're not going to the highest level doesn't mean that your journey isn't worth it. And we have these levels that society has set up, like Olympics, World Championships, Nationals, all these different levels, and people kind of have in their mind, like, if I'm not going to Nationals, kind of like, what's the point? But like,
yeah, I tell you got to break it down in terms that people understand, right? So I'm like, so because you're not going to be balling with Michael Jordan in the NBA, does that mean you don't go play basketball?
Exactly.
You know, like, why is this different? Why do you treat this differently? Is it because you do it? Because you want to be competitive in it? That's probably why. You know, but that you can't look at it like that. You've got to train the person to understand that it's about them. It's about their time on the barbell. That's important. And I think, you know, I think sports are vital to our structure as a human society, from many standpoints. Like, you know, I think it gives our children, on a physical standpoint, something that trains them, right? You throw your kids into their like little soccer league, and they're running and they're kicking and they're learning coordination and they're learning how to move their bodies and they're moving around the field and interacting with people. And that's a very important thing to learn as a kid, because how many people do we have today that, you know, they're not even learning how to use their bodies until they walk into a gym at 35 to lose weight,
yeah,
right? So it's very important to put your children there to just train them physically, you know. It also trains people how to lose. It trains people how to win, you know, and it'll teach you that about yourself, provided you have a good coach. Hopefully they can curve any kind of bad behavior in those aspects, right? Because I'm not a big fan of like bragging and things like that. Like, I'll talk shit, you know, like we'll share banter,
yeah,
but like I don't really believe in you know, there are bad winners for sure, you know, and then as a societal standpoint, it brings communities together, you know, for everything from, look at us talking on this podcast now and doing these weightlifting meets and bringing communities together for a cause, to walking into a bar. You know, I'm a Carolina basketball fan, and being able to sit down next to someone that I've never met, and all of a sudden we're sharing a conversation or learning about each other because we both like Carolina basketball and we're there to watch the game, right?
Exactly.
So I think from a societal structure, sports has a very important role overall, and it's important to just not let people lose sight of that. You know, like, that's what I'm getting at, is that there's a reason we do this, and it's an important reason. And there's you know, since we've started this podcast, I've successfully named like 100 reasons that you should be applying your body in a competitive nature, or even just training versus not doing it. Right? It's just important to get in there and just start moving.
Exactly. And that's where that whole concept of competing against yourself really gets embodied, because I think people have that idea. They're like, okay, I'm just going up there to compete against myself. But your ego is going to interfere and say, I don't want to step on that stage until I can hit whatever number in the snatch and whatever number in the clean and jerk, and I'm not going to compete until that happens. What would you say to someone who says that, who says they want to compete but only when they're hitting certain numbers? Would you encourage them to get on the stage anyways before that, or would you tell them to wait?
Yeah, I mean, it's two things. Like, one is it's usually fear. I mean, that's an excuse, and you're afraid to fail and be measured against others, so you feel that this some kind of number will save your pride, and you've got to let go of your ego if you want to compete. Because here's the truth: if you compete, you will lose, and you're going to lose more times than you win. So you have to, losing is a measurement. Like, some people say second place is last place. I'm not that hardcore. But yeah, like it sounds like fear. And if that's your measurement of success, if a certain number is your measurement of success, that number is never going to be enough, because it never will be enough. And if, being the enticing mistress that strength is, you're going to hit a bodyweight snatch, and then provided you're not a 100 kilogram athlete, then 100 kilograms is your snatch, and then you want 110, and then you want 120, and that's never going to stop, and you're never going to be ready. So, yeah, like I tell them, if you can power clean, power snatch, and power jerk, you need to get on the platform. You're ready, like all those lifts will qualify within a competition standard, and you need to get out there and just start moving. And I recently just wrote a blog called The Lifts That Count. And I talk about how there are going to be lifts in this sport that mean something to you. And as you remember, I went through a hard time a couple of years ago, and I'd almost kind of just given up on myself in the sport. And, I went out and then gave the performance of, my lifetime to date at that point, and, just crushed my previous total from when we were at hook grip, and, just, and there's going to be, you look at, it's hard to pronounce his last name. I don't want to butcher it, but we'll just say Oscar F. from the Olympics. Figueroa. But, the Colombian. And he went out there, and his story is amazing, right? Like he had, multiple spinal surgeries, and he got into weightlifting to get out of like the drug fields in Colombia. And, he had bombed out at an Olympics because of his spine, and he was like 34, 5, and he's at Rio, and he goes up, and this is the lift. He wanted a gold medal, and he goes up, and this is the lift that counts for him. It's more important than probably any other lift in his life. And he absolutely crushes it, right? And that's when you saw him like take his shoes off, right? And he retires on the platform, and it was like this huge moving moment. And you're gonna see that to some capacity in the sport, depending on who you are. There are gonna be lifts that are extremely important to you. And you don't want that lift to be an inexperienced lift, right? You want to walk out there and be like, I've done this. I've been here. I know how to handle myself. It's time to focus on this moment and everything that's happening around me, right? This moment right here, and do what I came here to do. So you don't want the important lifts in your life, the things that kind of push through some kind of adversity, to be your first lift, right? So it's like at a smaller level, you don't want to be like, well, I didn't want to start lifting till I can snatch 120. I would also argue that you're not going to be snatching 120 unless you're competing, because what's really going to drive you there? What's going to push you into those limits to just train and kind of go that extra mile, right? But also, you're going to go in there, and the guy that's going to beat you is going to be the guy where this is his 30th competition, and he's hit 120, 15 other times in competition, and this is your first. And you miss because you've got too much shit going through your head. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what I've found is anyone who's ever told me that, like I'm waiting to hit certain numbers before I compete, they never compete, ever. Because exactly like you said, there's no impetus for them to change. As soon as you sign up to do a competition for your first time, everything changes right away. And then when you step on the platform for the first time, like you said, people step off, and the first thing they say usually is, I want to do that again. Because it's completely different than training. Oftentimes, I find training for weightlifting it's really hard. But when you have a week to taper and you step on stage and you hit a couple lifts, you may not go 6 for 6, but if you do go up there...
I've never gone 6 for 6.
What's that?
I've never gone 6 for 6.
Yeah, neither have I.
Yeah. I've even made all 3 snatches.
What?
Missed a clean and jerk.
Oh, God. I actually, the last time I competed, I hit all 3 snatches, and then I missed my last jerk. I dropped it behind me, which I've never done before, on a jerk.
On a jerk, yeah.
Yeah, it was so weird, but I can't even remember what I was talking about now. But yeah, competing is key. You must do it if you want to weightlift.
It is. I think it's probably
because it's
especially
so fun.
different, so like I've talked about this before, and it's so like you consider that we'll say the average person, right? Not someone who's training full time, because if that's the case, these numbers will quantify even higher. But the average person that enjoys weightlifting and enjoys competing in weightlifting will probably compete between 2 and 4 times a year, right? And they're probably training 4 to 5 days a week for about 2 hours at a time, right? I think that's fair to say.
Yep.
So a snatch is like 3 seconds by the time the bar leaves the ground, right? A clean and jerk's between 10 and 15, and so you have 3 snatch, 3 clean and jerk in a competition. So if you say, let's say you compete 4 times, that's still less than 5 minutes of competitive time, right? For just hours and hours and hours, thousands of hours of training, right? So it's about so much more than just like being strong, right? And and then you go out there. Like I can remember at Hook Grip when we were there in Philly, like you're warming up in this room that's not even attached to the crowd, right? It's because it's a conference area. It's like a totally another room.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the numbers on the monitor in the back there, like jostling, and you can see the weights being jostled and the coaches, and you're trying to figure out where you're going to go and blah, blah, blah. And then they call your name, and you're like walking down this hallway, remember? And you can hear the crowd outside of the hallway. You're like, holy shit. And you open the door, and there are just like hundreds of people, right? And you walk that little aisle where there's the kind of that separator along the wall, right? You're walking up, and it was like this elevated platform.
Yep.
And you get up on there, and this is Hook Grip, so there's some fucking transformer watching you that's going to slow your movements down to like 100 millionth of a second, right? And you get up on there, and the lights were so bright you could feel the heat on you, right?
Yep.
And you couldn't even see outside of the platform because the lights are so bright. Everything else outside of you was dark. Right, so it's like you consider the hours of training, and you have 3 seconds to execute this moment where you're probably working at 90% or above, which is easily, if you're not focusing, a margin to miss. Mm-hmm. And so it's probably especially important in weightlifting to compete because of the nature of it's not a workout, it is a test. Right? Like you've already done all the workouts. So you get up there and you have 6 lifts, and it's just a test, not only to your skill, but all the X factors, your ability to focus, and thread the needle. And I've always said the difference between good and great athletes are your ability to execute in key moments, right? When the pressure's on and everything feels like it's going against you, your ability to kind of push all that aside and make it happen.
And it takes a few competitions to get to that point too, because
not be terrified.
Yeah, because my first 4 meets, like you don't even realize what's happening until it's over, and you're not able to execute. You know what I mean? Like you just walk on stage, it's over, and then you're like,
you're just surviving. You're just surviving.
Exactly.
That's a survival state. Absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. So it's like you want to hit a certain number and swing with the big dogs, and you're going in there, and this guy is breathing normally. He's got confidence. He's executed this movement pattern under pressure so many more times than you, and you're in survival mode, and you think you're fucking ready.
Exactly. Yeah, and I found you need a coach in those situations, because the meets that I went in with someone who wasn't my coach, or I just had my brother there who's never seen someone do any weightlifting before as my coach, that's when you go into that kind of survival state because you're all alone. But when you have someone there who's been there and is letting you know exactly what's going to happen, when you're going on stage, when to get ready, then you can kind of embrace the moments and do what you've been training to do. Otherwise, I found if I didn't have a coach, like you said, you go into survival mode.
I think because for the first Like the first 10 competitions I didn't have a coach at all. And I still very rarely do today, because who coaches the coach, right? I've got to grab my friends like you and be like, hey man, help me out. But yeah, like it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like trying to figure out how the hell the table works, how to warm up, how to train myself. I don't have anyone to bring me down or bring me up, so I've got to work through all that myself. Now thankfully, I've been an athlete to some capacity almost my entire life. So like I have some tools to rely on, right? But
Yep.
it was still a really, really difficult experience in a sport that I was new to, trying to figure all that out. And I think that I became good at it through the fact that I kind of threw myself into the fire, didn't have a coach, and just had to survive. And eventually survival became routine. And when it became routine, I started learning, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I even remember my first meet. My good friend Jibbin came down with me. He actually competed in Philadelphia too when we were there, but he coached me my first meet, and he had never, I don't think he'd really seen me lift before or anything like that. So after my first lift, he's like, hey, you should try and turn your feet out a little bit more when you're snatching. And that just like threw me off so much for the
It's not the time to learn, man.
Exactly.
Competitions are not the time to learn new shit. You
Yeah.
execute what you've learned to that point.
Right.
That's what that's there for.
Yeah.
As a coach, more than anything, you need to focus on running the athlete mentally. Now, there are certain cues that you've probably worked on together up until that time. Like if I have an athlete that's too far forward in their power position, up in that training cycle, we've probably really focused on their finish and pulling from the blocks and getting further back with their balance and their torso, you know, in the snatch or clean, to provide them that better bar path, right? So if we've rehearsed that, then I can look at the athlete and be like, you know, good lift. Remember what we talked about. Let's be more patient. You need to get further back. And he'll know or she'll know what I'm saying because we've rehearsed that. Now you're talking about going into an experience where you hadn't been training with that person and they hadn't been working on that with you. And he throws this whole new cue at you and you're like, what? You know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, yeah, that's the thing. When you compete too, it's also more of a letting go of things that are holding you back. I've always found in weightlifting, if I'm ever hesitant or if I'm ever not fully being able to express myself when I'm lifting, that's when I start missing lifts in front, like I'm not finishing. But when you have those cues that are really simple, just like through the roof or finish, and you're able to fully let go and just do the lift, that's when you really start to feel the power of weightlifting and feel like the bar is weightless, because it's when you start thinking too much that
absolutely
it just ruins everything.
Yeah, and you know the best lifts that I've made in competition, you know the lifts that were seemingly outside of my ability at the time, were the moments when I just stopped. Like that's the reason we snatch and clean and jerk all the fucking time, is to develop the motor patterns for it, right?
Yeah.
You want to be good at snatching, then let's snatch. And the best lifts I ever made were when I just realized that, like, my body knows what to do. Okay? We've rehearsed this. And the only cue I had in my head was like, once you break the knee, just pull the living fuck out of this. You know, like you gotta trust your legs. You gotta trust that your body and you know what to do. So let go and just put what you have into the lift. And that's what you're saying, is use your power, use your ability, and trust yourself. And then you hit that lift and you're like, okay, that was it. That was awesome.
Yeah. Because there's no other avenue that people usually pursue outside of physical activity where you can basically just think one little tiny thing in your brain and then let your body do the rest of it. And it's a very weird feeling, but that's the feeling people get, that they step off the stage and they say, I want to do that again. That's what they mean. They want to let their body take over and have their mind kind of shut off, because you don't get that anywhere else than competing in something. And I really feel like people miss out on that a lot.
Well, I think weightlifting is especially approachable for all ages too. It's like, so if you're, I got an athlete, Sunil, great guy, Indian background. He was a rugby player. And, you can tell, like, he came in and he came out of, in Charlotte, it's a huge banking town, right? So he comes out of this bank where he's just been in a suit and sitting down and, he probably hasn't really used his body since like college, right?
Yep.
And you watch a move and you're like, I can tell at one time that you used to move at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you work with them and, when I finally got him to the point where he was confident enough to get on a platform, to watch that revitalize in him. Like he even said, he was like, I haven't felt that since I played rugby, right? And so, but like, where does Sunil go to play basketball competitively or play rugby competitively? Where does he go to do that at his age, right? So he's like mid-40s. But weightlifting is very approachable that way. It's open. And it has age and weight classes, and you can literally be Sunil, middle-aged guy from the bank, walk into a club and get on a platform.
Yeah.
And if you're good enough, shit, you can go to nationals. You don't have to make it into the NBA. If you hit the numbers, you're going. So it's really approachable that way to just about anyone who wants to do it.
Yeah, and you can do it on your schedule. You don't have to get a group of people together to do it. That definitely helps, but you don't have to organize a time and place when everyone's going to be there. You can kind of, if you want, you can just show up and lift weights, which is another added bonus.
And that's it, man. And getting stronger is always a symptom of weightlifting, right? But it is it's definitely so much more than that. But it's like, and let's talk about where weightlifting is difficult to approach, right? So we talk a lot about how much we love it, but we're intermediate to advanced levels in this sport, right? So it's like, it's difficult in that it is, my personal opinion that I can think of is it's in a provider you're not, trying to fucking split a bullet with a samurai sword is probably the most difficult single movement you can do in a sport if you're snatching like over your body weight, right?
Yeah.
It's one fluid movement, the timing and the precision, and to even get to a point where you can reap the benefits of weightlifting, which is strength gain and all this other stuff we've talked about. You have to develop a certain level of skill. Like, it's not just exercise. You do have to train it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's a skill, and a skill you have to train, and only when you get to a certain level in weightlifting can you really begin to get stronger and kind of reap these benefits, right? So it's like, it's really difficult to approach in that way. And this is where, like, the leadership and the coaching has to come from the USAW coaches and anywhere else, is to be like, and it's so measurable. Like, I was watching, like half my clientele are CrossFitters because we're in Reebok. And I was watching a lot of people just get really frustrated. And in CrossFit, it's like this fountain of youth for PRs, right? You can just like work on anything, like double unders, push-ups, handstand push-ups, pull-ups, snatching, squats, whatever, name it, strict presses, who knows, right? It's everything. The unknown and unknowable. And, but like in Olympic weightlifting, like squats are fun and we like them, but it's the snatch and the clean and jerk that we give a shit about, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like the grind and the measurement is very, very real. And so, it's like let's say you develop to a point where you can actually start snatching and clean and jerking with some proficiency to where you can start getting stronger. And then your ability, you just start seeing all this gains, right? You get stronger and it's awesome, and you're probably reaching levels of strength that you didn't know you had, could reach, or never experienced before. And then you hit, the point of diminishing returns, and then it gets really frustrating. And that's who you're going to find out is going to stick around, I'll go for 6 months, 8 months to get like fucking 2 kilos on my snatch, right?
That's pretty good. It's not bad.
Yeah, right? Exactly. We're like, shit, I made 2 kilos every 6 months.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to approach that way. And I think it's important for coaches to communicate. You say you can't just write a program and walk away. You have to communicate with your people. It takes more effort from the athlete and it takes more effort from the coach because it's hard and because it's not exercising. I'm not going to make you sit down and count your crunches. Right. You're trying to do one of the most difficult movements in sports, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because one time I was down at my friend Jim's gym, CrossFit Havoc in Sarasota, and I said something like, "Oh, my snatch hasn't gone up in like 6 months or something." I was just complaining, being a little baby, and then he goes, "Is it supposed to?"
Yeah.
And then I just had to be like, I don't know. And he's like, mine hasn't either. He's like, I'm still doing it. But it was just one of those moments where you have to realize we're so used to instant gratification that when something takes 6 months to get better, all of a sudden we're like, this isn't working.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I tell athletes all the time, watch your minimals. Like, watching your maximums go up is awesome. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? But the real measurement to your ability is watching your minimals go up. The weight that you can work with just about every day of the week. You know, and that's usually the best precursors to whether or not you're advancing and whether or not you're ready to hit a PR. Like, if you're moving, you know, between 80 and 90% every day with intensity, like, you're probably ready to go up. You know what I mean? So, but if you're having a hard time and you're struggling around 60%, well, let's not focus on those maximums right now. Let's get your technical ability under you. Let's get some volume in there. So it's watching the minimals is the best way. So if someone's like, I missed my PR today. But I'm like, yeah, but earlier this week, I just watched you hit 86% for a set of 5.
Right.
You know, it's coming. It's coming. You got to be patient.
Yeah. And that's where having a coach is so valuable. Because if you're by yourself, and even if you do start hitting more consistent minimals all the time, but you're not hitting that max lift, and you don't have someone right there to say to you, it's coming, it's going to happen, then that's when it's easy to quit. So I think that's why weightlifting is also so cool, is because you do get that, if you're a part of a club, you get a coach there who's going to mentor you and teach you and kind of guide you every step of the journey that weightlifting can take you on.
Yeah, and it's hard. And you see people come in and quit all the time. Like, it's you know, if I got $1 for every person that said they were going to join and didn't, or did join and just didn't stay consistent, like, I wouldn't have to work on the side. Yeah.
Definitely.
So it is, and I get that, you know, and I think even as coaches, it's important to understand that. And, you know, it takes a certain amount of leadership to be a good coach in this sport. And, you know, the coaches need to stay humble too, and they need to study, and they need to stay up on it, and they need to remain open. And, you know, I think anyone who says it's only supposed to be done one way is a part of the problem. And, you know, there's a number of ways to skin a cat. And when you're talking about ground to overhead, you know, one reason I love to watch, you know, world-class athletes is, you know, you're looking at the best in the world, but just about none of them move exactly the same. Right? They're all a little different, and they all have these small nuances. And yeah, like, there are a few things that are really important, like your pull off the floor, the bar path off the floor, opening your hips. And for some people, not all the way. Like, have you watched Kurt Mulligan and some others? Like, it's like early arm bend to like hip clean, right? And it's awesome to watch. There's just different ways to do it, you know, and find your style, you know, learn your style, communicate with your athletes, know your athletes, look at how they move. And so sometimes, like, in the program, I'll just write jerk. I'm not saying split jerk. I'm not saying power jerk. I'm not saying push jerk. And they're like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, well, some athletes just, you know, jerk certain ways. Some athletes, you know, there are Olympic athletes that power jerk. Not every athlete split jerks. You know, it's your call as a coach. As a beginner, I'm going to get you technically proficient in all those areas. And that's the autocratic role that coach takes on with beginners. Intermediate to advanced lifters is much more democratic, right? So I've been watching you a while. I've seen you move. I've seen where your own idiosyncrasies develop as an intermediate athlete. And I noticed that for some reason, the power jerk is just more your thing, right? And that's fine. We'll just develop that. And that's what I'm saying. So when it says jerk, I'm giving you, like, you do it your way, and I'm just going to watch.
Yeah. Do you think that's you use the two words that I was going to hit on here. You use the word style, and then you use the word technique. Is that where that kind of comes in? Because when I start teaching someone from kind of the ground up of weightlifting, there's a certain technique I have in mind that I usually teach to pretty much everyone. But like you said, once you get to those intermediate to advanced levels where it can be a little bit more democratic, you'll start to see people develop their own individual style.
Yeah. It's important to be able to identify that, and that is also where you see a lot of breaks in coaching happen too. Like you'll see athletes leave, or, it just depends on that relationship that's developed. And for coaches too, like you're going to have your own style. And, for advanced athletes, you can almost tell which athletes come out. It's like if you're coming out of MASH Elite, you're probably catapulting, right? Because you got Don McCauley there. And there's like these signatures that coaches leave. But at the same time, I'd encourage also, like, I would love if all my lifters went out and sought new knowledge and, were able to teach the things that they learned as well. That's just the development of the athlete. But as they get to intermediate levels, you're going to see kind of this. Do they stick around? Are they going to be with you, or are they going to like go on and seek new coaching? And you don't take that personal as a coach, because as a coach, your gym's going to be a revolving door. And it's important to take a step back and just remain humble and just feel like, I'm happy that you have accomplished what you've accomplished under me, and go forth and become better. And if being here is holding that back, what's the main priority of a coach? To make the athlete better at what they do, right? And so at some point, you just got to let go and let the athletes make that decision for themselves as well.
Exactly. One thing I wanted to touch on before we finish off here was the 2 weightlifting meets that you've put on. So the first one was the flight weightlifting meet, which I got to go to, which was amazing. And then more recently you did Battle for the Fallen, which you put on obviously more recently. And what spurred you to start a weightlifting meet or even put one on, and what was that experience like with this second one?
Yeah. So I made the YouTube video, and I'll shoot it to you to put in like the link for this video or something like that, which kind of goes into that. Right, because I had a Metal Empire Productions kind of film it and encapsulate all that experience. But this time around was, the first meet was we were all lifting with flight and under barbell shrugged, and a few of us, like me and you, had met up and had a good time and lifted together and stuff. But we had like 200 members in there, right? And that first group really clicked, and I was like, man, there's like these just awesome people. And I was like, it would be such a tragedy to have all these cool personalities just never meet each other, because it was a remote program, right?
Right.
And again, like so many things are waiting to happen, but it just takes leadership in the right place. And I was like, this is, because I'd never thrown a weightlifting meet. I had been in them, but I'd never thrown one. And at some point, it was just like, fuck it. Let's do this. And, so we opened it up. We invited all you guys. And that was a great experience and event. And it was fun. And, the relationships that were created in that moment, just because, it was me at the time. It could be anyone that takes the initiative. Just because someone took the initiative to create the experience for people to get together friendships were forged, networking was created. Some of them have moved here and we're all working together now. So the next year comes around and, I was like, well, I want to do this again. Why should that stop? Like, let's do something with this. And I reached out to you guys and, you guys were like, yeah, let's do it again, and I was like, but it needs to be bigger. It needs to be crazier. Like it's always about growing. And you gotta make sure you grow in the right ways too. Like some people kind of lose sight of themselves. But I was like, well, if you've been in this sport long enough, like a local weightlifting meet, you're lucky to get to 20 to 30 athletes, right? Yeah. And I was like, how do we grow this? And, my girlfriend at the time, was like, we should get veteran communities involved. And we're like, well, let's make it a charity. And, that gives it a cause because it's like, weightlifters do want to compete, but how do you unite people? You need a cause. You need some kind of banner. And, Heavy Metal's in the area, Rose Performance is in the area, Mash Elite's just north of us, Bull City is an hour and a half, 2 hours from it. Like, there's a big weightlifting community in North Carolina, especially once Muscle Driver went out. A lot of those athletes, started their own programs and stuff, so it's just all out there floating. I'm like, how do we get people involved? And, I was like, well, let's make this, being a veteran, I was like, well, let's do a veterans charity. But I don't like big money. I don't like big corporations because there's no feeling there. It's like, well, let's donate to Walmart. Who gives a fuck about that? Right? Wounded Warrior Project, controversial company. I don't know the biggest details on it, so I'm not going to talk shit. But I also don't know where my money's going with them, right? So, a friend of mine from the Marine Corps you touched on earlier, Trevor Johnson, was killed in action in Afghanistan, and his wife, Nikki Johnson, created FOB Johnson, F-O-B Johnson, stands for Forward Observation Base. And it's this, they got several compounds now where they pay, it's free of cost to veterans to go out, especially if they're having a difficult time integrating, or maybe they come home from a war, and they go out to these like beautiful ranches in Montana, or they've got one in Costa Rica, they've got a few in California, and you go out there and you just hike and you ride ATVs and you sit in your hot tub and you shoot guns and just whatever you want to do, right? So it's like a rehabilitation thing for them. And I was like, well, there's the point, like I know directly where my money's going. I have a direct line of communication with the director, and it's a cause for one of my friends, right? So that made the most sense. And so the Battle of Fallen was born. And the community really did come together. We had a huge showing, way outside of my expectations. The meet was ran well. It was fun. It was an event. The community was there. There wasn't like this super stuffy kind of competitive eliteness that you'll sometimes pick up in larger competitions. People were there for a cause, and they were there to weightlift, and it really helped that Sugar Creek beer sponsored us and gave us free beer, because that kind of lubed the crowd a little bit, right? And it got rowdy and it got fun. We're going to do it. And, a bunch of, speaking of bigger corporations, like Fit Aid shit, they sent us like $500 of shit. Dang. Like a lot of these companies came together and joined up and benefited to this cause. And it was awesome. It was cool. And so that to me is a signal that those are the right moves made. And I've said it before, like when you stop asking for things and just start producing things, you're going to gain your biggest rewards.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're putting on that meat from a very truthful place from within you. Like it's for a guy you knew, that charity. And I think people can sense that when you're just putting on a meet for the sake of putting on a meet and making a couple bucks. That's not as appealing as coming together for that greater good. And I think that comes back to the people who are in the weightlifting community too. It's all good people for the most part. So when they have the chance to do something like that and be a part of something like that, they're going to move to Charlotte to be a part of it,
Yeah. Yeah. And, I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. Being a leader is not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. that's the very nature of being a leader, because a lot of people can't do it, or don't want to do it. And it's been challenging, but it's been so fun. And just watching these people, bond and become a team and grow together and do things together. And you start seeing the influence of the club move into the rest of their lives and seeing them become stronger people outside of the barbell as well. That's the biggest rewards. That's what it's really about. And I just love watching people of all levels and sizes and sexes and ages and races and religion. It all just kind of melts away in the face of something like that.
Well said. I think that's the best place to end things off today. And once again, I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us all your weightlifting knowledge and experience in life as well. So thank you, and I appreciate it, Ben.
Yeah, it was awesome, Mark. I'm going to make it up to Canada because I've never actually just traveled to Canada.
What?
And I've got two of you guys up there. You got Craig Hofer over in Vancouver.
We should go to Vancouver. Don't come.
Right.
Today.
And I believe you and I are 1-1. So we've got a battle we got to go through to settle this.
Dang, I got to start eating some stew here. Back on the pounds again. It's so funny. As soon as I start talking about weightlifting to someone, I instantly want to start gaining weight. And
yeah, you're like, I'm hungry. Where's some fucking stew? It was great, Mark. I appreciate it. We'll be in touch, and I'll make it up there soon. And I better be invited to the wedding.
You are. Everyone is. Everyone listening to this has an open invite.
Careful what you wish for.
Exactly. All right, man. Take it easy.
Die by the soul, her police looking for me.